All right, so we are now on the second week with the Prismcut P28. I've done a few adhesive vinyl cuts with it, and I've done a few HTV cuts with it, and I found a few caveats with it, so we're going to make the second video of some of the basic functionality of this, as well as some of the features that I found with it. So let's go ahead and get it booted up. All right, so as you can see, the unit is booted up. This is the home screen that it goes to, and you're going to see that my colors are not purple anymore. I did not like the purple colors. I really do think that this whole light bar thing is kind of chauncey, but the reason why I changed it to more white color is I was kind of hoping that it was going to shine on the cuts a little bit and show a little bit better where it was going to be cutting when this was on. That is not really the case. This light serves absolutely no purpose. You can see there's actually a spot there right on the cut strip there where it does not shine at all, so essentially this doesn't do anything. If you ever wanted to change that, I believe you go back into settings and preferences and LED, and then you can adjust these up and down and change whatever colors you want to change that. So again, I kind of put mine right in the middle. I like mine to be white, or as white as possible. So we will set that back. Another thing you can do is you can do an all on or all off. So you click that off, and then obviously you have no lights. You do on, and then you will have your lights. Now the other thing that this will do, and this part I kind of do like, when you are doing your cut, when it is first completed with the cut, you can make it ding, and it will actually turn green. If there is an error feeding or any kind of issues with it that it didn't complete the cut properly, it will turn red. You can go ahead and turn on notifications. You can do the LED after job is completed. You will see I have that on, and then alarm after job is completed. I have that on. Again, I sit real close to the cutter, so I know if it is done cutting or not. So actually I'm going to probably turn off the alarm because I don't care about that. The LED for that is kind of cool, I guess, but otherwise I really don't find too much of a value in those lights. Another thing is, I mentioned in the prior video, Wi-Fi was probably one of my biggest reasons why I got this unit. You can see, again, I am real close, and things are kind of all over the place right now because I'm working from home, so I'm in a real tight spot. But you can see my PC's over there, cutter's over here, table. There is an area that I don't want to have cables going across. I have dogs, cats, everything. You can see animal stuff over here. So I did want to have Wi-Fi connectivity to this to be able to have room to move this where I want. I'm going to be taking apart the dog sofa today and removing 3 sections out of that and kind of compressing that a little bit. You can see my pitiful dog Xena there. And I'm going to be putting the cutter probably over here in the corner and putting my table there, kind of make this room flow a little bit better. But again, it is a lot better than having my cables going all the way across the room and having a dog trip over the cables or knock something out. The other thing with the Wi-Fi, so I don't like having the cable, the power cable hanging out the side of this all the time. Again, I have animals. I don't want them to rip it out, break the connector, anything like that. What I have found is if you leave this device off for, I don't know, 2 days or so, it will actually lose its Wi-Fi connectivity. So you will have to go back into Wi-Fi. It will say that it is not connected, and you will have to do the connect button. So you can see up here it's got an IP address. It is connected now, but when it doesn't have that lit up and doesn't have your IP address, you're stuck. You're gonna have to do connect, and it's got to go through the procedure again, and it takes probably a solid 30 seconds. If you leave it plugged in, it seems to keep that setting, as I haven't used this for probably 4 or 5 days now, and the settings do look like they held. Another thing I've been trying to figure out here is how to get the head to go back to its resting position. I did just kind of find something, post-cut position, and you can have return to origin, move to the left, or advance after cut, and I think it'll just kind of put it back to the corner where it started. So if you're already starting in the middle, I think it's probably just going to put it right back to the right instead of moving the head all the way over. So we may try the return to origin option and see if that works a little bit better. Okay, and if you are one of those people that is going to be using a laser or an engraver or anything like that, you have a mode button, and you can switch from using your blade as default or laser, or I guess a laser and blade combo. I know there is some extra head that you use this for the laser. I was not sure that they actually did both, but apparently that is the case. Another thing I want to point out too is you would think, and again, these are things that are not covered in the instructions, you would think you want to shut it off, you just hit the power button. No, goes back to the main menu. Hit the power button again, nothing. Hit it again, nothing. So if you want to shut this off, you actually have to hold this in for a few seconds and then it powers off. If you want to turn it back on, you just hit the on button and it fires right back up, gives you a splash screen, and gets back to your home. Now we get on to the head manipulation. So you're going to have your bunny there in the middle. Bunny is going to be for fast. Click on the turtle for slow. So the bunny is actually fast for the rollers, and the turtle is slow for the rollers, which barely moving that at all. So that is actually good to know now that I looked at that. I haven't messed with that at all. You will find that when you're shooting vinyl in and out on that fast speed, it'll kick out pretty quick, so that turtle might work a little bit better. You have the left and right keys. That's going to adjust your head to where you want your head, and again the bunny and turtle, you're going to see you can do it in very small increments. Alright, all the way to the right, it is in its home position. I have had problems with that before, not getting to its home position, and actually would start blinking the red light and giving me problems with that, so just be aware of that. But otherwise, everything does flow nicely, and you'll see it should go all the way to the right and then bounce back into its position. You have an option up here to do a test cut. And we'll stop that. I didn't realize I was going to do that right there. I thought I was going to give more of a warning. But if you already have material in there, you want to do a test cut outside of the software, you can just do test cut right from there. The U-disc is if you want to cut directly from a like a thumb drive. You can plug a thumb drive into the side of this unit right here, and then you can load it from the U-disc option. I haven't tried doing that. I have no need for that. But if you are somebody that wants to cut from a jump drive, and already have everything set up and want to do it outside of the software, I guess you can do that as well. You're going to have your force and speed. If you ever want to change that, you can adjust your force and speed and what type of mode, and then you can do save. And then it'll give you an option. You're going to see I already have one for HTV and 651 Oracal. And then you have other presets depending on what your materials are. My settings are pretty close to the same between the HTV and the Oracal. I'm still kind of adjusting things, but that is nice if you have multiple different materials that you're going to be going through. And then again, you can do a test cut with those settings right then and there and see how things are working for you. One other thing that some of you guys may find useful to see, you know, how many cuts you have on the head or the blade or whatever, you can go into system information. It's going to tell you the model, hardware version, firmware version, serial number, etc. Then you go into statistics, and from there it'll tell you, I guess, how many times your motor has seen the x-axis, y-axis, counters, speed, yada, yada, yada. It'll tell you total jobs. How many jobs were stopped. So that was probably a couple times I got it jammed up, was at 7, and any maybe trouble codes and things like that. So that may be useful for some of you guys. I'm not sure how much I'll need that, but you could say, hey, after 10,000 jobs I want to replace the blade. So I guess that is kind of cool to see. And if you ever need to fully reset the unit, if it locks up, you can do a factory reset in there and set it back to stock settings if you've made too many changes on it and didn't exactly know what you were doing and want to start over. We're going to touch on the pinch roller situation. I do like the versatility of this because it does have multiple pinch rollers, and you're going to see that it does have multiple black spots of the traction material, or whatever you're going to call it, for the rollers to be adjusted. Now, I kind of wish that this first strip was a little bit longer, and maybe the other strips were a little bit longer. What I'm finding here is, depending on the size of vinyl that you have, you may find that if you want to start over to the right and you have 15-inch vinyl, it's going to hang, you know, 4 inches off of the side here, and it's going to crinkle it up. if you try and cut outside of the vinyl range or outside of the pinch roller range. So you can adjust these as needed. You just need to flip down on this and then push the pinch rollers wherever you want them to be. So it does give you some versatility, but again, depending on some material, you are going to find that it's going to be a little bit outside of the range. I must have already thrown away my cuts, but I did some test cuts. You can adjust the blade offset and it'll run through an ABC 1, 2, 3 thing. It'll run through the alphabet and it'll make you choose, it'll adjust the blade angles when it's doing it. It'll make you choose which one cuts the letters the cleanest. And then once you pick that, your blade offset should be right. And you can see here, these were one of my first cuts. That thing cut pretty solid. You can see those letters are about the size of my fingernail, so those are pretty small, fine letters. That was the initial cuts. I have more smaller stuff since then that I've done as tests, but I do suggest going through that blade offset procedure. So basically, if you want to adjust what I was just talking about with the blade offset, I forget how else to get to it, but if you send something to get cut, you're going to see your cutter up here. If you go into properties, there is going to be a calibration box up here, and then you can calibrate your blade offset. You can also see this off to the side here. So if you do your blade offset, it will tell you very specifically to load in some vinyl, and run through the test. It's going to give you some options of tests and which blade to select, and it's going to go through and it's going to tell you, pick the item that looks the best. If it looks bad, it's not going to cut the corners precise, or it's not going to make full cuts. It's going to get jagged, and you want to pick the one that is the clean cut. Again, I would show you an example, but I already adjusted mine and I threw away the cut example apparently that I was working with. But I do suggest going through and doing this first just to make sure that you don't have issues with your cuts later on. Okay, the other way you can get into your vinyl cutter, instead of opening an image and actually going to cut, you click this little rocket ship up here. You click the down arrow and go to vinyl spooler, and this will bring up all your information about your vinyl cutter. It's going to show you a preview look of the vinyl cutter. It's going to show you your job information, and that's where you can go into your cut options. This is where you can set a default media length and width if you decide to do that. Some various cutting options, blade angle, offset, you can do your calibration from there. Your connection type, which I have this as wireless, and then you can go back in and do calibration settings on the and do some test stuff. So we have our image there. We're going to go to cut, and you're going to see it just kind of threw. I had some weed boxes and crap all around there. So basically, it's going to try and probably cut this entire area. If I undo this, let's ungroup and delete and delete. And we'll regroup this and move it down a little bit so we have something better to work with. Now if we go to cut, you're going to see that it put the car and everything in its default position. You're going to see that I did a mirror. If you're doing HTV, obviously you want to mirror this, or you're cutting the right size. So make sure to watch for that when you're doing HTV. More importantly, when you're not cutting HTV, let's say if you're doing the next job and you didn't shut the machine off yet, go back and unmirror it if you're doing adhesive vinyl. I have actually caught that before I made a mistake. I want to say I actually closed out of the software as well and went back in it, and it might have stayed mirrored, but don't quote me on that. I want to say that that was just specific for that session. You can also put an auto weed box on this. I already put weed boxes around my stuff when I create them, but you can see it puts a weed box around it, and then a speed weed. That will actually weed all the sections. So instead of just doing the standard weed box like that, that'll put it just around the main image, the speed weed will actually put it around the main lettering and the main image, and then kind of indent around the bumpers there too, so you have something to grab and pull. You do want to watch with that, as that does change your cuttable area a little bit. So I have ran into that when I'm running on the outskirts of my cuttable area, that I've had to actually get rid of that or, you know, rotate my image so I'm back within that cuttable area. So definitely watch out for that. You can also change your machine type if you have multiple machines, change your media width. I've been using 15-inch and 12-inch. You can see that as you change that, I don't have a keyboard hooked up right this second, but as you're changing that, that is adjusting your width on the machine, and everything does go live, and it will show you the full dimensions of your actual cut, as well as the dimensions of the media itself that you're using. Okay, another useful thing, and I'm not going to speak too much on this because I am not overly versed on what exactly this is going to do for me, but you're going to see a little target down at the bottom here, and it's going to do set cutter origin. So basically, you're going to set where the cutter head is going to start. So you're going to see right now, I have it in the middle just because I was playing around. It usually defaults, you know, all the way over to the right. If you wanted to adjust that, you can hit your arrows, and you'll see that that's going to move. So you can have it starting in the middle all the time and then base itself right back to there, or you can just do reset the 0, and it will put it back to its main area. All right, guys, so that's going to be it on video number 2. I know a lot of that was me rambling, but I wanted to touch on a lot of the information that they did not give you in the instructions. The instructions, in my opinion, were very bland. They didn't have anything of actual value. It didn't show you how to load the material, how to manipulate the head, really how to do any of the important stuff to start cutting accurately. So I'm going to consider that stuff the general knowledge you need to know before you can really get this machine humming, get it working good, making solid cuts, and making you money. So we're going to stop this video here. We're going to consider this part 2 of the series. If you guys have any suggestions below for things that you want to see with this machine, or questions that you have further that I didn't touch on, please let me know. I'm making this series for everybody else to see what this machine is about. There is no data on these out there. I bought this blind and just hoping that it was going to work good and lived up to the hype. So I'm doing this for you guys that maybe might not have the money to waste if it doesn't fit your requirements. So let me know if you guys have any specific things you need to know or want to see. And on the next video, we're probably going to show around the software a little bit more. We're going to show how I load the vinyl and the different types of vinyl, and again, kind of what you can see can happen if you don't have those rollers matched up or if you don't have the blade adjusted properly. And I'm going to show you guys the kind of detail that I've gotten so far out of this thing. So far, I will say this thing has done some pretty tremendously detailed cuts with pretty relative ease, so I am pretty impressed with that so far. But again, you kind of have to know how to manipulate this stuff, or else you're going to ruin a little bit of work trying to figure it out. That's what I'm going to help you avoid, is making my mistakes. So I hope you guys enjoyed it and found some value to this, and we'll catch you on the next one. Thanks for watching.